Right. So today we're going deep on something pretty old school, but honestly, it hits hard in our modern world, the always-on world, Stoicism,
Stoicism.
and how it can help us regain control in this like digital chaos we all kind of find ourselves in.
Yeah, it feels like we're constantly reacting, right? Like that just never-ending stream of information and all this stuff pulling at you from social media.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
It can be so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the core of Stoicism has this like lifeline, and that's the dichotomy of control, which really boils down to understanding what you can actually influence and what's totally out of your hands.
Right.
Like think Epictetus.
Yeah.
He's a good starting point for all this.
Absolutely.
And really what we're trying to do today is give you some like really actionable insights
Yeah.
to help you cut through the noise of the digital world and maybe find a little bit more peace.
That inner calm.
Inner calm, yeah.
So let's just jump right in to this dichotomy of control. What is it? It relations at its core commodity. It's about understanding the difference between what depends on us, right? Like what we can actually control. And that's our thoughts, our judgments, our desires, and very importantly, our actions. And then the things that don't depend on us.
Right.
Which is like what other people think about us or external events, all that stuff.
It's so interesting, too, because it really is emphasizing that we have a responsibility for our actions, our choices.
Yeah.
Even when we're not sure how things are going to turn out.
Absolutely. And it's like that analogy of the archer.
Oh, yeah.
They can control how they aim, the effort they put into it.
Right.
But they can't guarantee that arrow is going to hit the bullseye.
Nope.
And so much of like our frustration comes from, I think, misclassifying what we can actually control.
Totally.
So when we can start to focus on what is in our sphere of influence, that's where we start to feel more at peace.
Yeah. And then the question is, and this is what I find so fascinating.
Yeah.
How does the digital age really push on all of this?
Yeah, it really tests it. So you think about how constant connectivity, how social media, all of that really eats away at our sense of inner peace and even control.
Absolutely. Like, how does it do that?
Well, you think about it, social media especially kind of pushes us towards this upward social comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like everyone's presenting these highlight reels of their lives.
Yeah, best of.
Exactly, and it can make us feel inadequate.
Totally.
And then you have this fear of missing out, this FOMO.
Yeah.
Which I think isn't just about missing out on experiences. It's this fear of missing out on external validation.
Right.
And then on top of all of that, you have notifications constantly interrupting you.
Oh, my gosh.
Breaking your attention, fragmenting your focus.
Yes.
And really feeding that craving for instant gratification.
And it's like by design, too.
It is.
Like they are engineered
Absolutely.
to capture our attention.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have the phenomenon of online outrage.
Oh, yeah.
That spreads so quickly.
And it's contagious. It's so contagious.
And when you're constantly engaging with that, it just drains you mentally.
Yeah. And there are studies that show this clear link between heavy social media use and lower well-being. And so
lower well-being, yeah.
How do we push back? How do we use these Stoic ideas to push back against all that?
Yeah, well, the first thing I think is to really consciously apply this dichotomy of control to our digital lives, right? To recognize that we can manage our reactions.
Yeah.
And that we can choose how much we engage with all of it.
Yeah, and even Marcus Aurelius, right?
Yeah.
He questioned why anyone would stick around in a toxic environment.
Exactly.
And it's such a relevant question for how we're interacting online.
It is.
What are the practical things we can do? Like, what are the actions?
Yeah. So there are definitely some concrete actions that I think can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So things like setting time limits on the apps that you're using, disabling non-essential notifications, creating tech-free times or spaces in your life.
Tech-free zones? Yeah, like it's all about being intentional with when and how you engage with technology.
It's like Jim Rohn said.
Yeah.
Stand guard at the door of your mind.
Exactly.
And that's the key.
Right. And it's so important to remember that the Stoics believe that we're not actually disturbed by events themselves.
Well,
we're disturbed by our judgments about those events.
Totally. So it's about how we're interpreting what's happening.
Exactly. So like when you find yourself reacting to something online, pause and ask yourself, is this reaction accurate?
Right.
Is this actually helpful? You know, and I think a big part of this is detaching from the need for all those external things, the likes and the comments.
Yeah, the validation.
Exactly. And instead focusing on aligning our behavior online
Right.
with our values.
Yeah.
With the things that are important to us.
It's so interesting how that aligns with CBT, too.
It does.
With cognitive behavioral therapy, like that idea of challenging negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
And then this idea of cultivating inner virtue, right? Like really developing wisdom, justice, courage, temperance.
Yeah, all of these things.
They become our anchors in the digital storm.
They do. And even, embracing what the Stoics called amor fati.
Amor fati, yeah.
This love of fate, this acceptance of the things that we can't control.
The uncontrollable.
Yeah, and especially the uncontrollable aspects of the online world. That can be surprisingly freeing.
And it's so interesting because we think of all this and, Epictetus, he lived in a world with its own forms of chaos.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like so much political instability.
Yeah.
Even slavery, like things that were largely out of his control.
Yeah, circumstances he couldn't change.
But Stoicism gave him a way to find inner freedom.
Right.
Regardless of all of that.
Absolutely, no matter what was going on around him.
And I think the parallels to what we're dealing with now are actually pretty profound.
Yeah, they are. And even from a psychological perspective, like when we look at how technology pulls at us, it really aligns with these patterns of addiction.
Yeah.
Often tapping into our very human desire for approval.
External approval.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the overlap with CBT reminds us how powerful our thoughts are actually shaping our experience of the world.
And then there's mindfulness.
Mindfulness, yeah.
Which can help us become so much more aware of the present moment.
Right, that present moment awareness.
And that allows us to choose how we respond.
Yes, instead of just constantly reacting. Which really reinforces that Stoic emphasis on self-awareness.
Totally. So I think a practical thing that people can do is to take some quiet time, even just a few minutes.
Yeah.
And identify one thing that you can control related to your digital use. Like maybe it's that urge to constantly check your phone.
Right, or how you react when you get a notification.
Exactly. And then identify one thing that you can't control. Like maybe it's someone else's opinion online, right?
Or how many likes a post get.
And then what you do is you direct your energy to managing the thing that you can't control.
Right.
And then acknowledge and let go of your attachment to the thing you can't control.
So, for example, instead of getting fixated on a negative comment someone left, you can choose how you want to respond to that.
Right.
Or even choose not to respond at all.
Or even if you just want to shift your focus from how many notifications you're getting to actually turning off notifications.
Yes.
That's a huge shift.
It is. And the more you practice this, the more self-aware you become.
Totally.
And the more you're able to kind of reduce that anxiety.
That digital anxiety.
That digital anxiety, yeah.
So ultimately, I think the power here lies in the dichotomy of control and focusing on what you can actually influence.
Absolutely.
To help you navigate this crazy world. Yeah, and I would encourage everyone listening to really try that exercise.
It's a powerful one.
It's a powerful one.
Yeah.
And I just want to leave you with one final thought. How would your experience of the digital world and your inner peace change if you focused only on what you could control?
That's a great question.
Something to think about.
It is.
All right, until our next deep dive, thanks for listening.
Take care.
Bye.